I know for a fact John loved Forbidden Door despite the press conference stuff. What did you think about Forbidden Door? I really enjoyed it.
I loved
But
it.
how did it stack up against last year's Forbidden Door for you?
Okay, for me, I have a different experience because I was in the arena. I was at the show.
Oh,
And
gotcha. Yeah.
I took my kid. I think that was the first show my kid. No, it was the second show he ever went to. His first pay per view. So, like for me, that's special, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So that show is going to be better for me because it's always better when you're in the arena. But I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, me and the kid have a tradition now. We go to the movie theater. We get the big bucket of popcorn and we treat it like going to the movies. And he has fun, right? And I thought it was an excellent show. I think putting Danielson and Okada on might have been a mistake, but who knew? I mean, we all knew Okada, or we knew Ospreay and Omega. A lot of O's on this show. We all knew Ospreay
Yeah.
and Omega was going to be a great match, but I don't think anybody thought it
Mhm.
was going to be the classic that it turned out to be. Right? I don't think anybody knew it was going to
Yeah.
be that good. It's not like one of my favorite matches of all time. So I mean, it's an
Yeah.
unenviable task. And Bryan Davis was the toughest human being in the world. Broke his arm and kept going.
Yeah, and I think that probably made that match end on a whimper. And I wasn't a fan of Okada submitting, and maybe that's just because I'm just an Okada mark, I guess you
I
can
thought
call
it
me
was
that.
awesome. I thought it was
I
great
didn't
because it
really
was so
care for that.
unexpected.
Yeah, I didn't expect it, and I didn't want it. Right? It's like I was fine with a pinfall, and maybe that's just me being like way too marky mark, in the funky bunch there. Like I'm just like I don't want to see New Japan's top star losing to the fourth top star in AEW via submission
Oh,
on the big
well,
show. That's just me being
it's
that's just
not
me
the
being me reading way
it's
too much into
Bryan
it.
Danielson,
I
man.
know, I know. I'm reading way too much into it, but after it was over, I was just like, I wouldn't have done the submission. Pinfall, yeah. Submission, he doesn't really submit to people.
I think that's why
I don't know. And you might be right. I felt like the air had been taken out of that match anyway already. And then when he submitted, I think there was like, what? They were kind of confused
there
by
was a
it.
lot of it
As
was like
as opposed to like, hey, this is this big climactic dramatic finish. It was just like, hey, the air got let out of the building because he faked the seizure, and then he never really got him back. And then all of a sudden, it was just kind of a confusing way to end the match.
first of all, that ruled the faking of the seizure.
Yeah, I
That
was
was
fine with it.
awesome. Bryan Danielson. People are so everyone. I don't know, man. Everyone treats wrestlers like they're Care Bears, right? Like they just want to see them all warm and cozy. And I get it.
Yeah.
We like these people. We're friends with these people. Like I just want to be entertained. And I thought that boy, what an evil man he is, taking advantage of everybody's love and care for him and pretending to have a seizure. And then Okada being like, "Get the fuck away," and
Yeah.
continuing to. I'm like, that's pro wrestling, man.
That's
If we can't
yeah.
if guys can't fake injuries in pro wrestling, what are we doing? What do we got
You're
anymore?
Yeah, and if you can sell one, you might as well use a real one, right? It would be like Steve Austin selling his neck after like a swinging neck breaker. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like after his injury. We lived through that. We cared for him, and he would sell his neck every once in a while.
every
Like,
once
oh
in a
my
while.
gosh, they attacked Austin's neck, and we know what happened to Austin's neck. Same thing with Lesnar. He had diverticulitis, had that surgery. He almost died, and then when they kick him in the stomach, they're there to remind you he almost died because he has diverticulitis, right?
Mhm.
So I was fine. I was fine with that. I'm just acknowledging what did happen to the
Oh, it
crowd.
did.
So
Oh,
even though
100%.
even though I'm fine with it, the people in the audience, they were apparently not fine with it because they
Bunch
were
of
scared.
sissies. Bunch of
Yeah, yeah.
sissies.
And then I
Like,
felt like maybe they were a little bit offended by it almost. Although we didn't get too much outrage online. I
no.
think that if they were truly offended, we'd have got more outrage online. But I did feel like they lost the crowd and they're never able to pick them back up after that. And then I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Danielson had broken his arm
Yeah.
and they just couldn't go the way that they wanted to. So ultimately, that was a little bit of a disappointment. But
Well, it's like in a typical Okada match. They take like you've watched enough
yeah.
Okada matches. They build slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okada, he's like Greg the Hammer Valentine. Starts off real
Yeah.
slow. Match gets longer, he gets better. And usually the last like 10 minutes of an Okada match, you're just like, oh my God. But I mean, when you're wrestling a one-armed man out there, it's hard. And I liked the submission because everyone went, whoa, like I don't. I think every match ending with the 1, 2, 3 and the big moment, it just feels it could be a little contrived sometimes. So
Yeah.
sometimes I like that. Like I said, anytime sports creeps its way into wrestling, people get like, whoa, 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 reality. I don't want
How
this.
dare you?
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
if it was a UFC fight and you had a submission like that, people would go nuts. But it's wrestling, so we're not trained that way. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm okay with it because we don't see it all the time, and because I think it was his move. It was that modified omoplata. with a with a tweak, and I thought, oh, that's really
Mhm.
cool. He turned it up. That's neat. But again, I don't think it was on the whole what people expected, and they had to follow probably what's going to be the match of the year. So
I I
excellent show.
I I felt like, and I still feel like, that Okada versus Danielson should have gone on last because
Yeah.
they were going to start off slow because
Hmm.
they had the crowd. They pulled the crowd down with that very, very, very not good Sting and the Darby, and that was not a good match. It was very sloppy. They redeemed themselves a few nights later, by the way. They
That
they
was
did a
better.
great job a few nights later, yeah.
Hmm.
But that match just wasn't very good. But when Okada has his match, because he starts off slow, like the first 15-20 minutes, they're working, right? They're just having, like, they're exchanging holds, they're doing the stuff, they're building to the story, and then you get that last 10 minutes where it's like this sprint of finishers and kickouts and submission attempts and
An
all the
Okada
different
match.
things.
Yeah.
It's an Okada. They never got into that final gear because of the
Couldn't.
broken arm.
Hmm.
So had that broken arm not occurred, and had the fake seizure not gone the way they differently than what they thought that fake seizure was absolutely going to get them into the match, and it just ended up not working. I think we would have had very close to another match of the year candidate. It just didn't work out. Hey, look, you try shit and it doesn't work out sometimes. So you got to try it.
Hmm. I have to. I mean, like, here's the thing: is they can always have another.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
They
and
can
I hope
always.
they do.
I
I
think they
hope
will.
I hope they do. Yeah, and
I
I hope
ha-
they do it I'd like to see it in the dome. That'd be
I
great.
think I think there's a good chance that happens. Here's the controversial thought. I think that Chris Jericho and those guys in the semi-main made a giant mistake having a match the way they did.
Yeah.
I think they should
Yep.
have just done a bunch of Sting Superman spots and let it be the come down match. We didn't need
Yeah.
Sammy Guevara doing the 630 through a table on the Sting, even if he missed it like it was planned. I don't think after the Ospreay match we had, they should not have gone out and done that because there's no way they could have matched it. It should have just been look at Sting do cool shit, look at Naito do tranquilo. That's all it should have been. It should have been the come down match a little bit. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that was egos playing into it, but I think certain people maybe let their ego get in the way of it and maybe didn't want to get upstaged. But I think that's the big mistake of that is they just didn't. They should have just been Sting does cool Superman spots and then
Yeah.
let Danielson and Omega be the big work rate match, right? I think, and I don't blame Tony Khan for this because AEW, the guys have a lot of leeway on what they do, especially when we're talking about guys like Sting and Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
I just think they played that situation wrong.
I do too. It didn't really work out the way that they had hoped, but hey, look, shit happens sometimes.
Yeah,
Hey,
what are you gonna do?
speaking of which,
Great show.
I thought that Omega Ospreay was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
That'd be my
But
favorite match.
yeah, they're getting a lot of attention for a Tiger Driver 91. Now, I guess my question to you, JD, is: will dorks on Twitter make wrestling more safe?
They will try every day. I mean, like, we can't cut promos, right? Promos are already bad. If people are too offensive in their promo, that's bad. We cannot do dangerous moves. We cannot do any. I mean, like, these are grown men and women.
Mhm.
Like, I'm I'm perfectly fine with. I mean, it's a risk, and like they say, guys get hurt doing silly stuff all the time. When I say silly, I mean, didn't John Cena tore his pec on a hip toss, right?
Yeah, Vince McMahon tore both quads by standing.
Yeah, he banged his leg in the apron trying to get into the ring.
Yeah.
Like Triple H tore his quad. He had chemical help with make that
Yeah.
possible, but he just took a wrong step. Like major injuries happen for silly reasons all the time. Mick Foley got thrown off a cage 25 years ago this week and basically walked away. Like wrestling is weird like that. Like the stuff that does, like we talked about in the Black Scorpion episode, right? Sting ruptured his patella tendon, basically destroyed his whole knee jumping.
Yeah.
Right. I
And it
mean,
was a
like,
routine move. Yeah.
I think people are tired of saying, well, you know what, it's bad, and then you wind up like Misawa. Yeah, Misawa died from spinal stenosis. But they did stuff like that all the time. Like it's
Yeah.
not like Kenny Omega's taken is taking a ton of Tiger Driver 91s,
Yeah.
right? Like he works a hard style, but at the same time, it's not something. I think that's what makes it great. Is it's not something you do every day. It's something you do once in a great while that makes it really stand out. Like the Burning Hammer, right? Like the
Yeah.
original Tiger Driver. You do it once in a while, people go, "Oh my god, that's amazing," and then you let it go. But everyone's got to be like the safety police. You know, if you watch football and then come to complain about wrestling moves, you're a hypocrite. Football's far more
It
dangerous than wrestling.
it really comes across as like empty virtue signaling to me.
A little bit.
It's like, these guys are doing dangerous stuff all the time. And look, that Tiger Driver scared the shit out of me.
Me too.
I was like, they just broke Kenny Omega's neck. Now, if Tony Khan made a decision, it's his company, he's the one that's got putting all the money on the line. If he made the decision to get rid of that move, I'd support it. Right. But I'm not going to sit here and pass judgment on these guys. They know what they're doing better than me. I just know it scared the shit out of me. But I'm also not going to take them to task because it's their match. It's their life. It's their career. If they want to do it, I'm fine with them doing it. If they said they didn't want to do it, I'd also be fine with that. If that move never occurred in that match, it's still one of the best matches that ever happened. And that was a wild spot. Rarely will I've been watching wrestling my whole life. Rarely have I ever, since I've been an adult, jump out of my seat while watching a wrestling match. And that moment made me jump out of my seat. Turns out it was perfectly fine. Kenny Omega is just fine. He's actually got a match coming up next week, but it scared the shit out of me.
So what you're telling me is a wrestler drew a legitimate emotion from you, from perceived danger.
Yep. Genius.
I mean,
there you go.
Is the Tiger Driver worse than the Shane Helms Vertebreaker?
Oh, you know what? I think early Shane Helms Vertebreakers were pretty tough, but then I think by the time that Homicide had taken that move over, when he did it in TNA, when he did it in Ring of Honor, look, the Gringo Killer, right? When he did it in Ring of Honor, I think that one also looked a lot like the Tiger Driver. But by the time he had done it in TNA, I think it was more of a flat back bump, right? And here I am using inside wrestling terms. Like, what an idiot I am. But it looked like he was
doing a wrestling show.
Yeah. I know. It looked like he was landing flat on their back. But yeah, I would say it's very comparable. Now, WWE did ban that move, right? So you know what? And I'm fine with them doing that. Hey, look, they want to. It's their money. They want to make their wrestling space more safe. Yeah. I'm okay. I just don't want to hear it from the dorks online.
But that's they banned the pile driver too. Like, and the pile driver has been done safely for years because you land on your ass, right? Steve Austin got hurt on a botched pile driver because like the sit out pile driver is dangerous, right? There's no protection. The regular pile driver, Jerry Lawler never hurt anybody. Paul Orndorff never hurt anybody with the pile driver in real life. Like, but they haven't had people do pile drivers since the one-time freak accident with Steve Austin. So I mean, like, I think that I think people's intentions are good. They want their guy. They love these people. They want them to be safe. I'm not a good person. So, I mean, like, for me, I'm like, whatever. Like, you're going to take your risk.
Live your life, dude. Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel. I mean, like, I'm not going to tell someone in wrestling, like, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, well, hey, man, I watched Vic Grimes fall off the damn ceiling, like, going through a gazillion tables. Like, I didn't love it, but I mean, like, that's their choice, right?
Yeah. And I feel the same. I feel the same way about Sting. That last night's match, the main event was awesome with Sting, and it was a Sting and Darby versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. They totally made up for that match that they had at Forbidden Door. And Sting getting on top of that ladder, I was scared shitless when he got up on that ladder. Man, 64 years old, and he dove, and he's supposed to go through 2 tables, and he only makes one of them.
They were kind of far.
I thought the whole thing was incredible. I was like, please don't die. And then he didn't die. And I was like, beautiful. That was a masterpiece, sir.
You know what I respect? I respect people like, oh, you're no, too dangerous, man. You got to play it safe. And a performer going, fuck you, and jumping off the table. Like, again, in my concern with their safety, it's not my job to be.
Yeah.
It's not.